What's going on, everybody? Prophecy Wiz back at it again with yet another video, another Voiceless Voice video. This has been probably the most highly requested video, so I wanted to bring it to you guys next. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to side deck with the Voiceless Voice deck. I'm going to give you guys some important principles that I go by when I'm side decking with this deck. And, obviously this would be an hour-long video if I just teach you how to side against the top 10 decks, 20 decks. But I'm going to teach you guys how to side against the top 3 decks, being Snake Eye, Yubel, and the Tempai deck. I'll throw in some tips and tricks I use for other decks, explain the theories, and hopefully that this can allow you guys to side appropriately on your own when you guys are in a tournament, in a pinch, because there's just so many different decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you're going to be able to need to do that. A lot of side decking does just come down to deck knowledge, but there is definitely things that I think I do when side decking with this deck that I've never seen other people do, and I think are like part of the big reason that I succeed with this deck a lot. So, I'll start with Snake Eye. When we are side decking against, so this is the main deck. Obviously, same main deck I've been playing. It's super good. I think that when you're side decking, we'll do going first against Snake Eye first because I think it's more simple. So when we are going first, we are going to want to side in the 3 Solemn Judgment, the Anti-Fun Fragrance, and Called by the Grave. And it should be pretty simple. So definitely a lot of the engine you want to continue to play going first because that's how you play through interruptions and hand traps. Like the pre-preps and stuff have a lot of value going first. So the first thing that comes to mind is obviously assessing the non-engine. I think Mourner is super good, but I think is definitely like the worst of the hand traps. So I think cutting out Mourner for the judgments is pretty easy. And then what I personally do is I cut down on 2 copies of Imperm. I know you might be like, "Well, why are we not cutting Valor?" I'll explain that. So I cut down on 2 copies of Imperm personally and play the anti-spell Called by the Grave. The reason that I play it this way is because even though Effect Veiler does play harder into Effect Veiler plays harder into something like Talons, I think that the way that I value the deck is still having like drawable hand traps. So like these cards are all insane to draw. But I'd rather have like the Valor that's not once per turn and then Ash to be able to try to draw so that I have interruptions from multiple different spots. I want to be able to draw like 1 or 2 hand traps, obviously alongside these broken cards to, if they happen to have like just a really crazy combo of things. Like I'd rather have a Valor in my hand if they have Lightning Storm Droplet than have a an Imperm set for obvious reasons. Especially Snake Eye, there's not anything really in the battle phase or the draw phase that you're looking to stop, right? It's not the Runic deck where you're like, well, they could summon Hugin in the draw phase, or lots of other decks, right? Lots of decks do things. I definitely value Imperm, even though, ironically, the Tempai deck plays Lightning Storm and Duster way more than the Snake Eye deck does. They play in the battle phase, and that's way more important for me. So, like, I value Imperm a lot more against that matchup. But everything that happens in the Snake Eye deck happens in the main phase, and you're going to be playing into Talents either way. You're not using monster effects, right? Like, you are going to play into Talents at some point or another. Anyways, generally, when you end up playing into Talents, you like your board can just deal with it at the time being. So that's why I value the Effect Valor staying in. This works really good. You gotta just know what you're doing with the Snake Eye deck. The Skull Guardian should generally almost always be dealing with the Snake Eyes Ash, and then the Pendulum Graph can deal with like Bonfire or Witch into OSS, and it just deals with the OSS. Like those 2 combinations generally deal with the Snake Eye cards, and then the trap should be interacting with the Fiendsmith cards. So you should be able to just interact every time with just your engine, but these cards are just like nice to help mitigate if they open like their broken non-engine, right? So that's how I side deck going first against the Snake Eye deck. if we are going second against the Snake Eye deck, this is where it gets really, really spicy. This is where it gets really cool. This is where like one of the main differences happens in the way that I play this deck, and like I said, part of the reason that I think I have good success with this deck. So just setting this all back up so that you can kind of see what it did look like, and then I can piece out some of the cards. So when I'm going second against Snake Eye, that's when we're expecting a hand trap war. Right when I go first, I'm expecting to combo because this deck is just very good into playing into boards. Like I said, if you guys want to see a combo tutorial as well, let me know. I'm happy to put that out. I also stream almost every single day on Twitch. It's always Voiceless Voice. So if you guys wanted to tune into that, I'd appreciate it. And yeah, so for the going second, I think that it should be quite obvious that we're not siding out hand traps. We are trying to get into a hand trap war with them because we think Barrier is better than, like, they have more one card starters, but you have arguably more hand traps, especially when they go first. You have more hand traps in your deck than they do. And when we're getting into a hand trap war, they might have more one card starters in their deck at the time, but we have Barrier. So we cited the 10 hand traps. If you haven't seen my most recent deck profile, please go check it out because it's going to be really important so that you are playing the right list. Whether or not you're playing the same hand traps as me, or you're playing different ones, I've been testing out Dominus Purge. You should always be endlessly testing and trying different things, and it doesn't really matter what hand traps you're playing. The theory and the ratio for me stays the same. So when I think about going second into Snake Eye, I think about them having, like, me stopping them with hand traps is obviously the goal. So we want to get 10 hand traps into here, which means a lot of cards are going to have to leave, right? So when we're cutting down on, like, a lot of our engine, you're going to have to make concessions, but you need to think about what cards are not as good going second. So the first card that comes to mind for me, that I always side out against Snake Eye, is going second specifically, of course, is Diviner. Diviner is an amazing card. However, Diviner, when it goes second and it does not resolve, is just the worst situation ever. Like, Diviner is definitely like an amazing card, but Diviner is the first thing that gets cut because, truthfully, going second, Diviner just never resolves. That's part of the reason I'm not a big fan of Chaos Angel in the extra deck, is because it's just not, like, that to me is not real. It's against a good deck that plays a lot of interruptions and hand traps and things. Diviner is not resolving. In which case, you're just stuck with a crappy level 2 monster on the field and a possible, like, brick in the deck. Trias in general, like, going first and stuff is not a brick. Going second it cannot be, but if you're cutting down on a lot of engine, it tends to become, like, more of a brick for sure. So, Diviner is definitely the first thing I always take out. I think that, you guys should follow that lead. Another card that comes to mind that's absolutely required in this deck, but is not required going second, specifically against Snake Eye, is the Pendulum Graph. So this card is amazing. It's insane going first, but like going second into Snake Eye, it's fine if you're playing like just the main deck and you stop them on 2 hand traps game 1. Like, this is fine. It stops OSS in the graveyard. Like, it is not a bad card. But when we're making concessions for engine, this is something we don't want to draw going second, right? Like, this is not the thing, right? So this is a very easy cut. We're cutting Pendulum Graph. That's 5 cards. We need 5 more cards. We're in good shape, right? So now that we have this, one thing that comes to mind for me, and I always side out, is pre-prep. A lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, no, I'm not siding out pre-prep. This is just my guide. Like I said, I realize that a lot of people are not going to like this. However, you must understand, I realize I'm probably going to get a lot of comments saying, well, why don't we just play some board breakers? This, that, the other thing. I do not find, like, I think that if you play board breakers, then you play breakers. If you play hand traps, then you play hand traps. I don't think a mix of them is a smart way to play. Like, I think if you're just trying to play hand traps and draw hand traps and stop them now, then you play a lot of hand traps. I don't think you just, like, play some breakers, like, drop what's already bad in this deck. Like, you could play Dark Ruler, but I think rather than play Dark Ruler and hand trap them once or twice and let them do the combo and then Dark Ruler them down a few cards and now try to play with, like, a decent amount of your engine, you'd rather just, like, have one additional hand trap, completely stop their turn, have them do nothing, and then play on your turn, take over, put up an Omni Negate, pops, and oftentimes 8,000. Like, Saphira low, just those 2 cards with 0 other cards in hand, that is 8,000 damage. I feel like that gets missed sometimes, but that is over 8,000. If you're wondering how that's 8,000, you just go Saphira for Skull Guardian, banish Saphira, send low, summon Guardian, low 1, Guardian 2, Guardian, search another copy of Guardian, summon low, low for barrier, barrier for blessings, activate blessings, add back the ritual spell from the graveyard, activate the ritual spell, summon the second Skull Guardian, 4,100 each, that's 8,200 damage. You might be like, oh my god, what if they have an interruption, blah, blah, blah. If they have, so like the only interruption that actually stops them from gaming you, like if they had Valor, they would have used it on, like Valor Imperm, right? They would have used it on Chainlink 2 to the low because they're not like going to play around this play, in my opinion. So you would have checked for Valor Imperm when you go Chainlink 1 low, Chainlink 2 Skull Guardian. You also, in that window, would have checked for Abyssal because if you go 1 low, 2 Guardian, they're absolutely chaining their, like using their Abyssal there, in which case it's perfectly fine because then Skull Guardian just searches low and then, like it doesn't really matter, right? Like you just normal summon the low, low for barrier, barrier for trap, and then you have Omni Negate trap, attack over the Bastille, can't target even if it's Druid's Form, and you're in good shape. So, that's really the situation with that, which is why I want to stop them immediately. Because I also think Omni Negate pop and other hand traps is really good going like after stopping them from playing. I think it's okay to side out pre-prep, and the reason that it's okay to side out pre-prep is because you are, like, we only have 3 ritual monsters in our deck, right? Like I said in that combo, we got 8,000 damage, we got 2 of the ritual monsters. Like, if we wanted to play a little bit safer, we could have just searched Saravis in that line, right? And summoned Saravis on our opponent's turn, sent the low, summon back trap, and then we have, like, Skull Guardian, Saravis, and low trap, right? So that's like game. Like, absolutely 1,000,000% game. That's a safer way of playing it. So, either way, it's game, right? Like, that, I don't know. I'm a big fan of ending the game, like, when you can, and I think you would have already checked the hand traps, but either way, that combo is game, and you can get to every piece that's relevant in the combo. So, like, why would we be, like, these are, like, okay, but, just not necessarily, like, required. So, I would take these out for more hand traps, because going second, I'd way rather draw a hand trap than pre-prep. I realize that it searches Saravis, and Saravis negates targeting. I'm aware, it's just like I said, you're going to have to make concessions. I do not think you let the best X combo right now, because I think that the boards are too hard to break. And then, I'm a huge fan of Nadir Servant going second. You could send 2 in Tis, have the full tribute, and then you have the ability to either draw a card or search whatever ritual piece you're missing, which to me is just insane. Like, if you stop them and then they set like 1 or 2 cards, you're just in, when you have Nadir, it's game. So, another card that I side out when going second, this one, I've seen people do before, so I think it's not very controversial. Some people aren't going to love it, but like I said, you got to make room. So, 1 ritual spell, hear me out. Like in the line that I just talked about, right? You just summon both guys without the second ritual spell in your deck. And then also, on your opponent's turn, like if you took the other route, you just use the blessings to ritual summon. Like, there's no reason why you should need like another copy of the ritual spell. That's just the reality of the situation. It's like you just don't need it, right? So that's my personal opinion. I think you just shouldn't play 2 of it going second, because it's like the worst card in the entire deck to draw when you're going second. Where I think hand trap's just 1,000,000 times better. And then this last one is one that people are going to be like, oh my god. But hear me out on the theory of it, because it works really good for me. I cut 1 Saphira going second. So I realize that we're cutting down a lot on the engine. However, once you see 1, you're like square on it. And the biggest reason that I am definitely able to justify like cutting the Saphira is because we cited Magnamut, and Magnamut is just Saphira. So that was like the biggest thing for me, was that Magnamut is Saphira, so we could side out 1 Saphira if we're siding in Magnamut, which we are. So when we side out those cards, we are going to take in 3 copies of Nibiru. Mind you, just Nib Saphira or Nib Magnemite is the full combo, so I think that's relevant. Right, like, also, like, Ritual Spell, Skull Guardian, any of those, like, Saphira, any of those cards with Nadir Servant is also full combo. And then Low on its own is also full combo, and you get additional cards. So, right, and we also Barrier with any of those cards is also full combo. So, like, I realize it looks like, oh my god, we're cutting down on a lot of engine, but, like, we're just trimming a lot of the fat for when we have to try to play going second. So, then we obviously have our 3 copies of Bell, and then 3 copies of Droll Lockbird. I myself personally have been testing I've been testing like Ominous Purge and Friends. I think it's a good card. I'm gonna make a video about that shortly. And it, like I said, it doesn't really matter the hand traps that you're playing. In order to side in 10 hand traps, you're gonna make concessions, but like, I mean, when you look at this right now, it is only just gas, right? Like, when you're going second, you're either drawing hand traps like Nadir Servant or just the most gas of the gas engine cards, right? Like Saravis to help you play into a board. Like, this is very important still because it like interacts, and same with Princess and Imperms, or just the gas of the deck. So this has been like super helpful for me playing this way, going second. And then I'm gonna put you guys on to something neat, is that this side decking pattern is the exact same card for card pattern that you're going to use for the Yubel deck. All 10 hand traps are just as good in the Yubel deck, and yeah, I mean, you're just, all the principles stay the same with that. So when you play against the Yubel deck, you're going to be using this exact same side decking pattern. If you're playing hand traps right now in the main or side deck, they should be good against both of those decks for obvious reasons. So yeah, that should be pretty obvious. So like another deck like the Gimmick Puppet deck, like I would play all 9 hand traps against the Gimmick, 10 hand traps against the Gimmick Puppet. I think like Magnemite and Bell, when they dumped the one that adds back and special summons itself and one from the deck, is insane to Bell. Droll makes it so that they can't burn you to death, and if they don't have the field spell, like, you can't respond to their stuff, but you can just nib away their shit. So like, I think these hand traps are all good into like an unknowing deck like that. I think they're all good into like something like Melodious. Like, obviously Nib's not insane into Melodious, but when they like, a lot of the times, like, you just have so many hand traps. Like, the theory behind playing 22 hand traps is that it's more than, I mean, just like, you can use the hypergeometric calculator. I'm a huge fan of that. But in just simple terms, if you have 40 cards and more than 20 of them, like very slightly more than 20 of them are hand traps, then your hand should be, your first 5 cards, right? 3 of the 5 should be hand traps and 2 should be engine. But because it's such a small skewed number, it's only 22 and 18, your 6th card, in theory, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! We're talking about, so it's not going to play out like this all the time. But in theory, your 6th card should be an engine card, which means like you're drawing 3 hand traps to stop your opponent, and then you have 3 engine cards like play and win. So that was the theory that works really good. Like I said, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes I've drawn 1 hand trap. I mean, that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! You know what I mean? But like the theory behind it is really strong and really smart, I think, and it's just like it's really helped me. So I'm hoping that this can help you guys as well. Like I said, same exact side decking pattern, going second against Snake Eyes and Yubel, which should be helpful, because once you just memorize, I'm taking out these cards, I'm putting in these cards, even if you're testing out other cards, right? If this card happens to be Mulchummy, that's the same thing. We're still taking out the same cards, we're still putting in the Chummies, and I think, like, knowing that you can play the deck this way, and then before you decide that you don't like this, I really highly encourage you to put it together and play it yourself. I think when you play it, you're going to realize, like, wow, I really do draw 3 hand traps and then have engine to play. That's really good, right? Like, you know what I mean? Barrier Nib, Barrier Saphira, like, or Saphira Nib, like, any of these combos are just like the entire combo. So I encourage you to play this before you decide that you are not happy with the engine count, because like, yes, you cut out some engine, but you also are getting a sixth card every single time you're getting additional cards. So like, yeah, it's gonna be some less engine for sure. Regardless, the one card doesn't mitigate the amount of engine that you took out, but it is really good. Anyways, so that is how we're gonna side deck going second against both of the top decks. Now I'm going to show you guys what we're doing. We're gonna put this back and be super quick with this. Moot. Back Sphera. Back the ritual spell. We're gonna put back our friend pre-prep. Set this over. Like these. So my way of side decking against Yubel is very similar. So like I said, I think the weakest main deck hand trap, even though I think it's still super strong. Don't get this wrong and like have me think like oh, this card's not really good. This card is really good. It's the next best hand trap. Like I said, I'm testing Dominus Purge because it's really generic, but this card is really good still. So I do like the same thing, except for like this matchup, we are going to be cutting down to 1 imperm, and then we are also going to be replacing the Veilers completely with Droll and Lockbird. So the Droll and Lockbird against this matchup is actually really good. Like, Droll and Lock going first against the Yubel deck it's like similar to drawing like a Maxi going first. Like, when you build your combo and then you also have Droll, it's like beyond game breaking. It's so impossible to play past. So like that is the reasoning and the theory behind that. So like, obviously we have the 3 judgments that we're still citing in for the same stuff we had cited out. The 1 anti-spell Imperm and Call by the Grave. The only difference here is we are citing the Veilers out for Droll. Same thing, we want to be able to draw like physical hand traps and Ash Droll when you go first and build like the rest of a combo. It's just insane. It's so good. So yeah, this is how I side going first against Yubel. That then you obviously already seen how we side going second against Yubel. And that just leaves the Tempai deck. So against the Tempai deck, Tempai is interesting. So a lot of the times, like almost every time, we are winning the game 1 against Tempai because either we win the die roll and we just win, or we lose the die roll and they let us go first and then we still just win. This deck is really tough against that deck because of the interaction with like Chainlink 1. So like they'll activate the field spell, not use the effect, and then go normal summon Pydra, activate the effect, and then that'll be Chainlink 1, you go Chainlink 2, Skull Guardian, Chainlink 3, Trap to pop the field spell. It removes the field spell. Skull Guardian negates and destroys. They don't even have a monster on the field for if they have Chandra. And then you like later on in that turn are gonna just summon out the like try to summon out the Pendulum Graph, and then that in the battle phase can just interact with their quick play spell, and that's just game. So the thing with that deck is because they know they have such a hard time playing going second against this deck, they don't like. I found mixed results consistently, whether or not they want to go first or second against my deck after game 1 when they lose. So assuming they lose, let's say they win game 1, I'm choosing to go first. I think if you cannot choose to go first with your deck, you're not playing the right deck. I never ever ever let that deck go first under any circumstance, and I beat it every time I choose to go first. That's not a good play. Please, for the love of God, do not let that deck go first. So you're asking for cornball stuff to happen, and Like, you can trust your deck, I promise. The deck's insane. So, the thing is when they are going first, you don't really always know 100% whether or not you're going to be going first or second. So, one thing that I like to do, so one thing that's definitely important is that you realize that they're going to try to set up seals. They are going to try to, like, they're gonna go seals. If they go first, they're gonna go seals, and they're gonna try to summon out the Koyoki Maru monster, and Ash Blossom lining up with the Grave effect of that is insane. It's just game breaking. It's game. Imperm on summon of the Koyoki Maru is also game. And then Mourner, even though Mourner, when you go like on your turn, oftentimes sucks because it's Chainlink 1 and then a monster that's summoned, if it had an effect, would be Chainlink 2. So it misses. If it's just a monster with a Floodgate effect, the Mourner is actually insane. So Mourner and Ash and Imperm are all like line up really well into that. Valor, like, if you're going first, it's not that good for the reasons I already have explained. And Valor, if you're going second, is like fine, but not nearly as good as just playing something like Judgment. So, especially because you're not sure if they're going to make you go first, and if they do make you go first, they have a ton of cards that you're going to want to interact Judgment with. So, cutting that for Judgment is like an easy concession. What becomes a little bit more difficult when you're thinking about it is, what do I want to cut? Because if we're not sure if we're going first or second, so whether or not we're going first or second, Called by the Grave is going to be insane because that deck plays Shifter, and that's like the main reason why we're playing Called by the Grave. Even though it's just one, like, it's just a good card out overall. Nonetheless, I've already explained that in the deck profiles, but against Shifter, like, we obviously are starting in Called by the Grave every time we go first, and then when we go second, it lining up with seals, like when they seals and you chain Called by the Grave, it's immediately, they've lost the entire game. So, these two cards are very important. You're going to have to decide where you're going to make a concession. I make the concessions on pre-preps. I think that the other cards are just too important to line up with Koyoki Maru if they choose to go first, and I think that, one of my friends that, he actually took top 8 at NAWCQ, James playing the Tempai deck, he thinks that you just definitely, if you're playing the deck, you need to be going first against this deck. I trust his judgment. He's a super good player. He has countless topped Nats many times. Was one round away from Worlds this year with the Tempai deck. He was one of my 2 losses, ironically, in day 1 as well. So I think that deck should be wanting to go first, which means that this is the right siding pattern. But Judgment still, when they go first, is fine. But if they do let you go first, then this is also really good. So this is going to be the side decking pattern, going first or second against that deck. If you are choosing to go first, then the only difference here really is we're going to have in the other 2 pre-preps, we're going to be taking out 3 of the Mourner, and then we're going to have just like 1 copy of Valor. So if we were choosing to go first against the Tempai deck, this is what our deck would look like. Yeah, I hope that helps you guys a lot. Before I finish out, if you guys have absolutely any questions about like other matchups, side decking that you guys are having a hard time with, let me know. I guess super quickly, I will show you guys my going second against the branded deck. So if I am going second against the branded deck, it is the only deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! That I am going to be siding out. So, I think these are all really good against branded, but I think Nadir Servant, there's, nothing you really want to pop right then and there against branded. But against branded, you definitely are going to want the Magnamut and then the 3 copies of Bell. A lot of the times you still have so many hand trips in your deck right here, you have 16, that they're going to, because they play so many cards, they're going to end up thrusting into the trap that banishes Branded Fusion and then plays on your turn. Or if they don't, you can stop the big 3000 Bastille and like stop them from getting Brandon and Lost. In which case you can stop Brandon and Red, and even if they have Lost on the field, you can still stop that trap card with the Bell. Stops Called by the Grave. The one deck I did lose to was playing, Nadir Servant. So I belled a Nadir Servant against that. I thought that was insane. So if you're going second into that deck, that's the only time we would be cutting Nadir going second, because it just doesn't bring the same kind of value. So also we're going to want Called by the Grave in that matchup. So we're going to do one pre-prep for the Called by the Grave, obviously. That is pretty much it. I mean, obviously there's tons and tons and tons and tons of decks we can talk about. The Ritual Beast deck and this and that. And if you guys want a combo, like if you guys want, obviously I know that people probably want a combo video that's been in the comment section a lot. I'm going to put that up next. If you guys are unsure about how to side deck in certain matchups, ask me. If there's like another video that you want about side decking, maybe into certain shifter decks or whatever the case may be, please just let me know. That's going to be like my baseline for like what kind of videos I'm making is just what the people want to see. So what you guys want to see is what I'm going to like show and help with. I want everybody to really enjoy this deck. I want everybody to play this deck. I know there's a lot of people who love this deck. I love this deck. And I think everybody just deserves to be able to play the decks that they enjoy. That's what I've always done. A lot of people know me as a Paleo guy. I was a Paleo guy for years and years. And I always just played the deck that I thought was good. Like, I thought Paleo was always really good, and I really enjoyed playing it. And I was just going to try to be really good playing the deck, like have super good technical play, and then push the boundaries of things that, like, other people aren't going to do in certain decks, right? Like, a lot of people don't like to push the boundaries, and they're just like, that hasn't been done, so they're not going to do it. But that's not the appropriate way of going about things. Like, I don't play the Old Man, as a lot of you guys have noticed, and I've not been playing the Old Man for months. It's the best decision I ever made with this deck, was not playing the Old Man. But I think a lot of people just haven't... Like, a lot of people just played the Old Man because everybody else played the Old Man. Like, I know that people are going to be like, well, no, there's situations. I realize, in theory, there's situations, but if you just play without it, you're going to realize you didn't ever actually need it, and you were just drawing an unnecessary brick. Like, I know people were playing 43 or this or that cards because they were so sick of drawing the Old Man, but they're like, no, I need it. But they only decided they needed it because somebody else decided that they needed it. So, yeah, like I said, I really appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. The support in the last two videos has been absolutely insane. It's been more than I could have ever imagined in a million years. Genuinely, I could not have imagined this many people watching any of my videos. I didn't think that this many people would care to watch, and the fact that it's just been two videos and they both have been so crazy, it's been really, really just like, I've just felt super blessed about it. I really appreciated everybody's support. So if you guys would like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I have content coming every other day that will be consistent, that will be for more than a year straight. That's going to be just like the future of what I'm doing with YuGiOh. I'm going to be super consistent here. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, and we will see you shortly.